So this Steve Barratt guy, he did end up actually doing his live at 7 o'clock. I thought he wasn't going to do it. I thought he'd done it early and he was going to like quit it. But it turned out that he did do it at 7 o'clock on a Saturday. I think a few other people were misled by him doing an early one the night before. So what actually happened in this Steve Barratt live chat?
Also, we're lighting up Black Friday.
Well, this is more adverts getting in his way now. I actually think these adverts are obstructive now. There's got to be some human rights law that these adverts are violating, just like to be able to do anything, engage in life or anything at all. You know, if they're not frustrating and infuriating to have to manoeuvre around and navigate, surely that affects your family life at home. Steve Barratt is one of the people who wants to scrap the Human Rights Act. Yet, Steve Barratt definitely is absolutely clueless about the law around the platforms and how America and China have infiltrated the European Union and the right to privacy and all that side of it. I think most people who like social media and YouTube don't care about that. They put themselves out there anyway, but it's all the stuff in the background which it invades the privacy of. So what actually happened in his chat? Well, they ended up being at least about 1,000 people in there by the end. He was supposed to look at his community post that he put and note down questions that people had put. And then he was going to answer some of those questions and some questions put in the chat, right? Now, he claims that he's wanting to actually run his career from his social media at the moment and also his appearances on TV, radio and writing for the newspapers, right? Because he's not actually meant to be practicing barrister as much. He's kind of sort of like more retired to the media, but I think he does do a bit of law, but... So he's actually doing it to make money out of the social media, right? Now, he says, though, that he's not familiar with and doesn't know the YouTube audience. But it's a YouTube audience that has got him like nearly not far off 100k followers. And that's the thing that's going to get him money, right? But he says that his real heart and soul is his Substack, which has got his... lovelies on there, his kind of like fans, and there's about 6,000 of them, right? Now, I can't see how he's going to make any money out of social media for an income out of 6,000 fans on Substack, right? Unless they're all just giving him money, right? If he's got like nearly 100,000 on YouTube, obviously, surely he can make more money out of that. Now, he said that he's genuinely wanting to try and stop the government taking juries away, right? So he put questions out. So I figured that he was wanting ideas, input and feedback to actually do something productive that could actually stop these jury things, right? Like everyone putting their heads together, right? Also open for other questions, but primarily for that. Now, what actually happened is that he didn't read out any questions from the community posts that people had put, right, by the end of it. And... he did start taking questions, and I think he had one admin helping him in his comments, and they were actually all right. But what actually happened is that people were putting questions, and he wasn't really picking them out very well or focusing on them. And then people started putting these super chats and throwing money at it, and then every time someone put a super chat, he just read out the question, right? So it actually turned into a cash for questions. It actually ended up being cash for questions, except there was one woman towards the end who gave him like 50 quid or something. I tried to find out who it was. Mandy something or other, 1976 or something like that. And she doesn't have a channel. I clicked on her. I searched her on YouTube for a channel. She doesn't have a channel, so it's just like an account that she goes on YouTube to watch other videos with. Like... she didn't actually put a question. She just gave it out of the goodness of her heart, right? And I'm like, there's a really severe cost for living crisis and people, people can't even afford to go buy food now or pay the rent and all kinds of crazy stuff. I'm actually wondering where all this super chat money is coming from, right? Now, maybe if people were putting like, up, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 quid, but 50 quid at a time. But if that's what you want to do, fair enough, right? I'm not knocking that, but I thought that he wanted to get all his viewers together to put their heads together to try and do something about these juries, right? But it didn't actually turn out to be like that. And this is the problem with these channels, particularly when you start getting, up to 1,000 people in a chat at once. It wasn't that fast because he got like 10-second commenting on. So because he got 10-second commenting on, it couldn't like flow like super quick like the lottery channel just does. Like when the lottery channel's going, it just goes like you can't even read the comments quick enough as they're just like flashing on it. When you put your own comment, it's already like taken up, gone up, like like it just suddenly just gets taken up by other comments off the screen. Like that's what happens in Russell Brand's chat. There's so many people just throwing comments in. So you could actually read the comments that people were putting and sort of you could easily read them, but he wasn't picking all questions out. He ended up talking really about his own stuff and general stuff. He did answer some questions, but to be honest, a lot of these channels now, I don't think that the format of social media, unless it's like in Facebook groups and so forth, is really geared towards actually being that productive, other than, channel people, the hosts, just basically, being on I suppose there are different ways you can set up your YouTube channel and use it, right? Particularly if you're going to protests and covering events and things like that. People just want to see the event and see what's going on, right? And they can talk to each other in the chat, right? People can use the chat and talk to each other. But when it's a host hosting it and they've got large numbers of people, I really don't think that it's productive to get anything out of it that's useful, other than if they want to raise funds for themselves, raise their own profile and just get themselves, well, the word fan, get fanned, basically it's like, to put the sunglasses on, put the shades on and, have a cool breeze, like making you cool, like, the chill factor, the cool factor. It's just basically like, I've got, and I this is just me, right? I've never really myself been interested in or thought, sought having, loads of, being a guru. Some people like it. I don't find it productive, right? I like it when people are just getting on with what they're doing and getting along with each other, right? Not necessarily, when things run smoothly, like when, you're wanting to do something or go somewhere and things run smoothly and people are agreeable and nice. But, that doesn't necessarily mean that, put it this way, right? Let's imagine that you could have some kind of like magic power over people, right? I definitely would not like gather them around me in a big crowd and like get them, shouting my name out, right? Or, getting down on the hands and knees or, throwing money at me or anything like that. Or even just like stood there gawping at me when I'm talking. It's like, if you're going to, even if you go to a music festival, you go to a music festival, right? You still listen to music and have fun, walk around, do what you're doing. If you're going to the seaside or whatever, you're doing that. If you're going to go for a walk in the countryside, you're doing that. I've never thought that it's something that I wanted to pursue or particularly enjoy that. And YouTube seems to be kind of like the perfect tool for people who like that, right? Now, if people have got a problem they need solving, like all these protests and, government are doing this or government are doing that and we need to oppose them, productive things, or like, Chris Packham falls in the category of what I'd say, he's got his fans, right? But he is also trying to achieve a certain thing, like, save the environment or whatever it is, right? And he gets his fans to throw money at that. obviously it's him who's orchestrating it, and they do what he says, right? You know, there are goals and objectives, but a lot of these goals and objectives, they kind of it seems to be that, you know, it's kind of like one for all and all for one. It's sort of like, you know, there's some kind of conductor, and then they're getting everyone to throw their money at it, or everyone to turn up in a mob, or do this or that. The format that Extinction Rebellion do, where they do have group meetings and put their heads together, supposedly have these Zooms and stuff like that, and they do these training events, and they set up all their different networks, and they've got all kinds of different things going on in Extinction Rebellion, or they did do at one point, right? I did sort of participate in things like that a little bit, but I never ended up getting into it, because you've got to be a follower. You've got to be like, they seem to have people who are on there saying, right, we're going to tell you what to do and you do it, right? Now, I'm not a person who's like, you know, attending a we're going to tell you what to do and you do it type thing, because then they're telling us what to do and they're wanting us to do it, right? And when they're not doing things right, and when they're doing some things wrong, completely wrong, you know, it's all about coming together and all discussing matters and talking about it to find solutions, but they never seem to want to do that. It was always like, oh, we're doing this, and, you know, you can turn up at the Zoom and whatever. And it does not seem like that. The platforms, even in some of the Facebook groups, it doesn't seem very productive for that. You've got to be you've really got to be either, you've got to have your own channel and it's got to be big and you've got to have the people listening to you, or you've got to be a guest on other people's channels if you want to have a chance to have a really good say and put things to people and put your heads together. And if they don't want if you don't want to go on their channels or can't get on them, then tough, right? It seems very difficult now just to use the normal contact methods, because people are so busy. Some people seem to email each other and, you know, get things done, but I don't think that the truth of the matter is that there's only a very small minority of people who do succeed that way, because obviously there've got to be loads of people who they can't, you know, they're not, every single email isn't getting that kind of treatment or attention, so it's almost kind of like a raffle in a way, or they get certain people that they get on with or whatever. So I did not actually find the chat to be that productive. I tried to put the question across a couple of times and he didn't pick it out. The assistant was actually being quite nice in there, but it did actually turn into a cast for questions. It definitely turned into, like, you know, there were people throwing money in there on Super Chat, and they were the ones who definitely got the questions read out, and pretty much very few other people did. So, and then he even stated that, you know, I need to try and make some money out of social media. So, you know, it was Barrister, you know, and if you're there for the personality, if you're like, yeah, I like this guy, he's a nice personality, and I just want to go in there and have a fun and, you know, not take it too seriously, that's fair enough, right? I'm not criticising, you know, if people are going on there and they want to get, you know, cooled down by their fans and, you know, it's just a bit of a laugh. But, you know, it's not a laugh when it's about money, because, like, you know, if people are throwing money at something, it can't be that casual or for a laugh, because it's got, you know, this is money, right? You know, if you're there to make money, then it's not a casual laugh, is it? You know, you're serious, because money's serious, right? So this is the thing with YouTube. They're trying to pass it off as just a casual social laugh, but it's actually dead serious for YouTube themselves and for the channels, because they're making money out of it, right? But the purport that, oh yeah, like, you know, we're going to save the juries and we're going to have a question and answers and we're going to do something about it, right? But actually that wasn't ended up being the case. There wasn't really any questions put at all whatsoever by the end that had made any serious or substantial proposals of how we're going to stop the juries. So it definitely wasn't like, you know, let's put our heads together and see how we can stop the juries at all, which I was quite disappointed with, him being a professional qualified barrister. You just can't have the attention span into it like that. it can't really be anything more than casual banter, get to know a personality, sort of rub shoulders together, and all a bit of, my lovely's love-a-dub, which is kind of like, it's like, Chris Packham on Overdrive. It's like, I'm a celebrity, get me out of here on Overdrive. It's making millions of, kind of minor celebrities. And I don't necessarily think that it is solving the problems at all, It's kind of like, and a lot of these people, this guy is a successful guy, he's got a family. He was a practicing barrister. He's got lots of connections. He's got connections in the House of Lords. He's got connections in the government. One ironic thing he said is, like, they were talking about writing to the king, and he's like, I don't think the king knows about my channel or knows about me. He said, like, one video might have gone viral. But then later on he was going like, I'm really good friends with very high-profile members of the House of Lords. In fact, one of the most hard-working members of the House of Lords, and one of them who reads everything, right? I'm just like, and, so like, if he reads everything, surely, it's a couple of members of his House of Lords friends might have reeled his name off in front of when the king's in there, I would have thought. Particularly if you're a barrister. I don't even know if the King's Councils get to... I wonder if when they award the King's Councils, the Silks, their title, I wonder if it's a little bit like getting knighted. I wonder if they go and get to see the king or not. But I don't think, I don't think this guy's a Silk. But anyway, so he did, to be fair, he did do the questions and answers. It was quite disappointing that he said he was going to read the questions out, but he didn't. And it ended up turning into a cash for questions sort of session. So it was a little bit disappointing. I think realistically, you're naive if you take all these channels and chats seriously any more than just like a casual thing. But this is the problem. We've got loads of really serious social issues at the moment, right? And we've got all these really serious legal issues, and they're actually talking about them, and they're saying that, what can we do about it? So with all this modern technology and all these platforms and all these videos, it doesn't seem like, unless you've got like a host who is like meticulous with his comments and questions and stuff like that, and he can, really understand what people are putting or pick it out, and he's not too busy with other stuff. I really can't see how it can be a putting your heads together session to get as much out of it as possible to solve the problem. That always is going to be some kind of like sideline to just like, I'm a celebrity, get me out of here, It's just the way it is. That's my opinion on it. And there is some interesting channels that I watch. Look at this channel underneath, right? Did medieval pirates exist? This guy who does like, he does jousting and all kinds of stuff. That's a great channel, It's good education. He educates people about all kinds of medieval things. That's okay to watch on occasions. But we're not talking about people who are making videos purely for educational purposes. Some of these channels are wanting to engage with people, and they're claiming that, there are issues out there, and they're purporting that, that they're wanting some help or contributing help, and they're going to do some actions with their viewers to do something about it, right? And I don't find on many occasions that actually happens. Even a lot of the people, sometimes when they're at these protests, when they're looking at sometimes you can put something and he'll say it and it'll get read out, but it's a shame that when people are on site and they're at an event or at an incident, and if they've got the live chat running, and you can communicate with them sort of if they're paying attention to it, right? Like if the if they're reading out some of your comments, or if they see them, and it's a little. Do you know what I'm starting to? that Prisoners No More channel, right? He was outside the Royal Courts of Justice the other day, and I'm like, can you get some of these police officers' badge numbers, right? And he did respond, and he did kind of sort of try to film some of them, but he didn't manage to get any of them, and he sort of did it a bit wrong. The BBC programme Nightmare, like the Nightmare program where it's like you have like a guy with a helmet on, and then you've got like your adventurers who are on the quest, and you've got that Hagar guy, and they're in the dungeon sort of thing, and then basically they've got to guide the contestant around the dungeon, like they like take 2 steps left and 1 step forward, and it's a bit awkward at times, and then they've got to try to work things out and guide them. It's kind of like that, but it's like, but the YouTuber is usually kind of like a little bit oblivious. It's like, it's just a shame that, this will be one of the things, when Klaus Schwab said yes, and when I am giving a presentation, it would be in the future, I will be connected and linked to my audience, and I can really feel their emotions and how they're responding to me talking and giving the lecture. That would be amazing, because he's wanting basically, if he hasn't got enough, ego from them all chanting and cheering, or he's wanting to, if he's not excited enough himself, to be giving such a presentation, but he wants even more, he wants to be feeling every single person's emotions, or even know when they don't like his jokes or something like that, it's like, that would, I heavily criticised that. I said, no, it's a ridiculous idea. It's stupid, If you can't see how your audience are responding from, their facial expressions, when they're in the audience, then, there's something wrong with you. You must be like dull, dull numb. But it's like, it would, when they're at these protests and events, and then, the police are sort of doing things, and like, oh, if you could, you need to say this, or you need to say that, or you need to quote this law, or say that, or do this or that. That would actually be quite productive, and we're kind of nearly there. But I think it's because the hosts don't really know who everyone is in the chat, and even sometimes when you do get through to people through Messenger, when you are more connected and you've got their attention, if they don't necessarily know something themselves or haven't learned it themselves, they're not necessarily confident with it or understand saying it or using it, and I think that's a big part of it. Like when Fiona Rose Diamond was out the other day, and she was walking through Newcastle, and the police were trying to shut her down, and she's like, nope. She was just like, that was her own knowledge, and she was very confident with it. So, if she didn't have known that law, and if she wasn't confident with it, and if, someone had have put it in the live chat, but she did read it and see it, she might not have, it's almost kind of like, I don't know, like fumbling with something, like if you get something out of your pocket or do something and you're not quite dexterous, or it's like that, but kind of like a mental version of that. It's like, oh, maybe I should say this or do that, and it's like not quite sort of savvy with it, but I don't know what's going to happen. There's all kinds of things going off, but it's, are people actually wanting to solve these problems, and how are they going to go about it? Barratt obviously is a competent lawyer because he's won legal cases, right? I think on a number of occasions he was like, "Oh, I'm going to do this. I'm going to solve." He's like, "Oh, I'm going to solve the problem with the Human Rights Act." So like, I don't truly think that he believes that he needs any help with a lot of the things, because apparently he's going to sort it out, right? He's going to sort out the Human Rights Act, right? And he's going to sort out the Town and Country. Don't worry, I've got the Town and Country Act sorted out. I'm like, when he said we need to scrap the Town and Country Planning Act, I cringed. I was like, no, Steve. I wish I could speak to him and say, Steve, The Town and Country Planning Act, particularly the control of advertisements, is an amazing act. It's critically important for the use of advertisements in public, and it allows privilege to be used in the common law and be recognised, so that it should be put to immediate effect. And the police aren't taught it at police college. The local councils know it, but the local councils don't know the parliamentary law side of it. It was a very, very good act, a very, very useful act, but it doesn't get used. Instead, the police just charge people with criminal damage all the time, wrongly and illegally, instead of actually saying, "Oh, that's defacement, that's defacement." Let the council fine them. That's defacement, that's defacement, that's defacement. Let the council fine them. Let the council sort it out. That's defacement. And in particular when it's political and they can't do anything anyway. A lot of these acts are really gone to waste when they're extremely useful and brilliant, and it's such a shame. It's a real catastrophe and a shame when the police are utterly retardant to the Town and Country Planning Acts and the control of advertisements, for example, when they're acting illegally, and they're just like, jacking off with the criminal damage charges when they haven't got a fucking clue what they're doing. And then when you get these cases like Stop ULEZ and you've got all these criminal lawyers and they haven't got a fucking clue about the Town and Country Planning Act or how it applies to what they're doing, and you try and explain it to them and they just have not got the foggiest idea, even when you try and explain it to them. And it's just so upsetting that such a brilliant and amazing piece of legislation that someone's put through is just completely and totally undervalued. And then you've got Barratt's like, "Oh yeah, we need to scrap Town and Country Planning Act, it's rubbish." But I'm like, no, it's not. It's an amazing act. He doesn't even get any acknowledgement. He doesn't get half the acknowledgement of what he should do. Now, maybe he's talking about different parts of it for different things, right? But there are all kinds of different things in the Town and Country Planning Act, right? And there are extra add-ons to it, like the control of advertisements and stuff like that. So, to say, "Oh, we need to scrap the Town and Country Planning Act," I'm sure that after a 10-minute discussion with Barratt backwards and forwards about it, I could change his mind on it. But I'm never going to get through to him in his fan club session. It's not going to happen because he's not there for that. He's there to take extremely casual questions and mainly cash for questions to support him and his family. And just to get, it's like, he's been at work all day, wherever he's been to, the Spectator or wherever, and now he needs to get in front of his fans and, set the fans going and, put his sunglasses on and get a Kool-Aid, and, smoke my kip rubber back for breakfast, get some cool time, some chill time with the fans, right, with the lovelies, Wouldn't it be great if everyone had the loveliest time? But this is the thing, and some people aren't even satisfied with 6,000 lovelies. Apparently, YouTube's nuts. YouTube's crazy. He's 90,000 lovelies. His 90,000 YouTube fans aren't his lovelies yet. But that's his main. That's his main audience, right? If his main audience, which is aren't his lovelies, then who the fuck are? Well, what's the point of having an audience? Well, the shoe were throwing enough super chats at him anyway. So some of these people make me laugh, and I'm not being nasty at all. This is the voice of reason. This is critique, and this is what the government don't like on e-petitions, right? It says you can criticise or disagree with the government, but they're blocking us from doing that. Jamie Stone and the petitions team will not publish any critique or disagreement with the government, but it says you can do it. And this is a thing, when you start critiquing these type of people, they take it as, someone being nasty in the chat, someone being nasty, right? But these are the people who are meant to advocate, freedom of expression and speech and all kinds of stuff like that. But he wants to scrap the Human Rights Act. If I'd have had a discussion with Barratt about the Human Rights Act and about how the right to privacy is literally non-existent, and they've used it as a red herring and a con in order to get the American and Chinese platforms to infiltrate all of our personal private data, already done and dusted, right? Part of Tony Blair's plan. I'm sure I could convince him that the Human Rights Act is worthy, but the Human Rights Act is getting abused. It's like some kind of dog chew toy, the Human Rights Act. It's ended up being like people like Joylan Mohan and the Good Law Project are using it for all kinds of, it's like, it's almost like Stamp Your Feet Act. Like, I want to be a man, now I want to be a woman, now I want to be a pigeon, now I want to be a dog, now I don't want anyone to say this or that at me. It's kind of like it's like a I want, I get act. It's kind of like, whatever the fuck anyone wants, apparently the act can get them it. Like, they don't want to be called a fish, they don't want to be looked at funny, they don't want to... Whatever you don't want, apparently you can use the act to get it if you can put an argument through. And that's the thing about that act. It's done in a way so that, Joylan Mohan could use the act to get whatever the fuck he wants. He could probably say that, someone, you're not allowed to call him Joylan, because that breaches his privacy. Joylan Mohan probably would if he could get away with it. Like, he's out in town and someone shouts, "Hey, Joylan, how you doing?" He'd probably sue them for, like, disclosing his name to public, like, that was breach of privacy. Like, everyone in the town centre was alerted of his name, and he didn't want anyone to know it. So, this is the thing. You can use it for whatever you want. But that's the thing, then they're not using it for all these huge things with the platforms. Ironically, I talked about the platforms, right? That some action needs to be done about the platforms, and then Joylan went and did it, but for what people are talking about, speech, when the whole point of the Human Rights Act is meant to be freedom of expression and freedom of speech, but not necessarily political speech, right? Even speech that isn't political. But he's going to do in a case where against free speech, right? So it's literally like banging your head against the wall, You might as well just like stand against a brick wall and just bang your head against it, But anyway, so yeah, I gave the Steve Barratt guy a try. I didn't manage to get through. And I'm not signed up with Google for payment, so I can't throw super chats because I don't connect my bank card to Google anyway. So, but it was all right though. I'm not saying I don't like him, I'm not saying that he's stupid or anything like that. What I'm saying is, when someone makes a statement like, "Hey, I'm going to be taking questions and answers," put some down there and I'll take note of them. And by the way, we're going to try and stop juries. Like, let's put heads together. That's not actually what it is. To think that that's going to happen is quite naive, I think. And it can only be taken with a pinch of salt and casually. And if you can make loads of money out of something with a pinch of salt casually, then you're doing well. So, thumbs up to him, good on him good on him for what he does. But, if you've got 80,000 viewers, sorry, not 80,000, 800, 80,000. He's just under, it might even be 90, he's just under 100,000 subscribers on YouTube. And if they aren't his lovelies, if they're not the lovelies who are pulling his lovely cash, then I don't know why, right? I think what he probably really meant is that, I'm not familiar with, if he'd have said this, right? My lovelies are the people that I'm familiar with and I recognise their names and I feel comfortable with that on Substack. On YouTube, it's impossible for me to know all these people, but clearly they are interested in what I've got to say, or they won't be watching my fucking channel, right? So I appreciate that I've got 80,000 people on this channel, and I'm getting that huge amount of audience, which makes me into this minor celebrity that, even the king might have heard of at this point. So I deeply appreciate my YouTube channels and followers. Thanks for watching and subscribing. I really appreciate you helping me support my family with this revenue that I'm getting from YouTube and the super chats, right? And, but I appreciate that, I can't respond to everyone. So, but, he also did say, though, that, we can fire DMs at him. So he said, if you've got any questions, DM me. But I've sent him messages on Facebook Messenger quite a few times and he hadn't replied to him, So when these people say, oh, you just DM me, what they mean is like, roll the dice, DM me on a good day when I'm not busy and, I might see you comment and reply, that type of thing. So, I'm still a skeptic of the direction of YouTube and what it's becoming and where it's going to go. But, we're in 2025 now. YouTube only emerged around 2005, 2007-ish, and it's changed dramatically, and the acceleration of the change is speeding up now, and we don't know what's going to happen because Neil Mohan is going absolutely... He's trying to turn it into a mini-mart, right? He wants it like video games, listen to music, videos, and buy a T-shirt, and it's like Neil Mohan's merry-go-round, fairgrounds, I'm quite surprised that, you can't, that you haven't got like a fucking game on your phone that projects like some kind of laser screen on the wall, or you print some out. And I'm quite surprised that Neil Mohan hasn't got like this thing that you print out, like, you print it out and then you stick A4 sheets on the wall of your house, like, and there's all like, games there, and you use your fucking mobile phone to fire a laser at the targets, and it's actually like a shoot 'em up game, like some kind of laser, using the barcode scanning laser thing to somehow play a game, like, actually with moving targets in your room, like on the wall or something. But that's the way Zuckerberg wanted it to go. But you'd be rare if you could win a prize, wouldn't it? Getting the ducks off at the circus ground. But there'd be some scam to it, like the you wouldn't shoot straight or something like that. Wouldn't it be good if you could use a mobile? Well, you can win money anyway on mobile phone. You can play games and win it, but make it more interactive in the room or whatever. That'd be interesting. It's like Affleck's Palace in Manchester. There's this mad place in Manchester called Affleck's Palace, which was like this huge multi-story indoor market, but multi-story, kind of like some kind of trip to Arabia or something, but just like mad place. And I really truly believe that Mohan thinks that it's a good idea, but I don't think Neil Mohan doesn't. He's gone into Hitachi, kind of like. He's definitely on the budget minimart, fucking second-hand TV salesman, fucking digital store. Johnny Five is alive, and I don't think he gets that gimmicky. He's like you can have like like geeks, nerds. He's gimmicky, right? Mohan's gone like mega gimmick. You can like mega geek, mega nerd. Mohan's taken YouTube into like a mind-blowingly mega gimmick spoiler fucking thing, right? Plastic fucking car kit spoiler thing. And people, it's meant to be there for videos, right? And it's all for money. It's because they're making a shitload of money out of it. If they weren't making any money out of it, right, and it was, and the word user-friendly meant something, right, and humanity, I'm a human with a soul, right? But this is the thing. At the moment, Neil Mohan, he's like some kind of Indian god, like, dancing with the skulls around, like when you're on the floor, like, we're being slaughtered by these fucking adverts and these stupid, we're being slaughtered by these, you got ads popping up. I'm quite surprised they ain't got a screen on the back of the phone. The next mobile, the only thing that they haven't done yet, right, is have, like your mobile phone screen, and like, Neil Mohan will do this, right? It's guaranteed that he's going to do this, right? And in fact, I should charge Sergey Brin for this idea now, because I know that once I say it, like, it'll be popping up. I'm amazed that already Neil Mohan's not got a Google phone out yet, right, for YouTube that has a screen on the other side of it, on the reverse side. So when you're walking around, like, filming stuff, it's actually showing adverts to other people on the other side of your phone, right? So when you're at a gig at an event, like, filming, right, and everyone who looks at you is looking at advert on the other side of your phone. Never mind, like, freaking advert on, like, JC Decor, right, at the side of the road. Like, the back side of your phone isn't advertising stuff to other people. It'd be all right if you were getting monetization from that, wouldn't it, right? And also, you can watch, like, one screen, like you wouldn't have to, the ads wouldn't then pop up in front of the thing you're watching because they can pop on the other side, right? And you're quite surprised that you ain't got audio ads going over it while it's playing, In fact, just whack my top of my head with an axe and split it in half, and then you can put the phone in between the slot in the gap, and then you can an eyeball, you can make it so like you could, like when you grow a tomato square. You grow a square tomato by growing it in a box and it grows into a square shape. I'm quite surprised Neil Mohan's not got some kind of strange, mouth brace, so kids in America put a head brace on so it grows them. So their eyeballs grow like a Millennium Falcon, like the front of the Millennium Falcon, with a gap in, so you could put a double screen mobile phone in the gap, so one eye can watch one side of the screen and the other eye can watch the other side of the screen. Again, Bozide then, and then you could put you could when you go Bozide on purpose like that, you can get them to both go your eyes to turn in, and then you could put the phone in between that. I think Neil Mohan probably secretly would oh, that's a really good idea, that, the Africans used to grow their head to a strange, weird shaped head, but you're not going to need to do that soon because I think that Elon Musk is already going to, we're not going to have the phone, are we? It's going to be like Dot and Bubble, on, Doctor Who, and it's just some kind of not even a marble, it's not even going to be a fucking little floating marble, a marble you have in a pocket that projects it. It's just going to be converted in your the imagination. Yeah, so it's going to be like the human imagination, but a digital version, of the human imagination. So, like the human imagination, but better, so I can recall things from memory, but you can recall them even better, even more memorable. I think that's the way that Musk's going with it, or how Musk is going to take it. The last time I thought about Elon Musk was when I was just thinking, when they've got the robot, he's on Neuralink, right? So the only main thing that Neuralink's going to do that's going to be worth anything to anyone, like Bezos or any police chief, is once you've got these dancing robots sorted out that Elon Musk's working on, then these dancing robots are going to walk around and lift things up and down like humans, and then if you've got a unit of them, you need a sergeant or whatever, so someone's going to be in control of them with their mind headset, and then who's got the override for that? If you've got the foreman of the factory is going to be in charge of 6 to 12 robots or 24 robots or 100, right? And then what happens when the police turn up and they're in charge of their robots? And then what is it going to be? Some kind of sorcerers, it's necromancer army, they got the fucking necromancer army, versus we're talking about humans being in Bluetooth command of multiple robot units, and if you're not going to be directing them to lifting fucking boxes and packaging, what are you going to be directing them to? Is it going to be warfare? And is it going to be like my robots versus your robots, or what? I'm interested to know how that is not going to be the end game. What is going to prevent that from being the end game, when it seems to me like working on dancing robots and working on Neuralink, it's what's 5 plus 5? 10. What is 12 divided by 2? 6. What happens when you get dancing robots who can move like humans perfectly, plus Neuralink equals... what's the answer to that one? It's not going to be an entire unit of mind-controlled robots, and we're not going to have an argument over who's in control of them and whose mind's in charge of them, are we now? What's 2 plus 2? So I don't really know what Elon Musk's end game is, or where he's going with it, and how he's oh no, it's not going to be like that at all. Right? Well, so you're not going to have robots and you're not going to have the Neuralink then. Oh, no, we're going to have robots and Neuralink. Well, robots plus Neuralink equals, Oh, no, because people won't think that. They'll think happy thoughts, and the robots will just be skipping through a meadow like picking daisies. I don't need a robot to skip through a meadow picking daisies. I can do that perfectly fine myself, right? Well, someone might not be able to. If you've got your grandma there, she might not be able to do that, but the robot can do it for her. It's just going to push a wheelchair through there, and I don't know. Some of these things are getting a bit silly now.